Good morning. Welcome to Arlington Street Church, gathered in love and service for justice and peace. Welcome to the soul of Sunday. We are Unitarian Universalists. Ours is a historic faith with a progressive theology. We affirm the worth and dignity of every being, and that we are all deeply interconnected. We are bound to one another not by creed, but by covenant. And we are called to answer the call of love with open minds, open hearts, and open hands. Whoever you are, those of all nations, all creeds, all colors, all kinds of love, you are welcome here. As we gather, we acknowledge that Arlington Street Church occupies the ancestral homeland of the Massachusetts. By making this land acknowledgement, we recognize, honor, and affirm the sovereignty of all First Nations peoples.
Seek not afar for beauty, lo, it glows in dew-wet grasses all about thy feet, in birds in sunshine, childish faces sweet.
Dear ones, welcome to our Zoomers, and welcome to the congregation gathered here in the sanctuary. Our executive minister, Reverend Beth Robbins, is in the Zoom room this morning. I want to say a very special thanks to our volunteers here in the sanctuary today, tech team, Great Doors team, greeters and ushers, the musicians, and the Arlington Street Church Choir directed by Mark David Buckles. For those of you in the Boston area, Elf Hefe is looking to round up a few more elves to usher on Christmas Eve. The services are at 5, 7, and 9 o'clock. If welcoming our guests is a way that you're called to serve, please put your name on the sign-up sheet that I think El Pepe is passing around this morning, or you can speak to me. Thank you. If you're here with a baby or a child, the Coolibecks are your best friends. They would love to take your baby. Thank you, Sarah and Morgan. Following the guidance of the Boston Public Health Commission, we're continuing to mask and physically distance in the sanctuary. Please keep your mask over your nose and mouth the whole time you're inside to protect our most vulnerable spiritual companions. Thank you, friends. For those of you who are new to Arlington Street, I want to say a very special welcome to you. Those of you in the sanctuary will find welcome cards in your pews. Please hand yours to an usher or to Queen Cheryl, or you can drop it in the basket at the Great Doors as you leave. For those of you in the Zoom room, please fill out a connection card. The link is in the chat. It includes the option to request the link to a recording of today's sermon. Since we can't greet all of you in person after the service, Reverend Beth and I would love to invite you to our New Friends gathering this Thursday on Zoom. Friends, whether you've been coming here for years or today is your very first time at Arlington Street, welcome home.
Good morning.
Good morning, Pat.
Thanks, Kim. If you haven't already downloaded today's order of service, it's available in the chat and on our homepage at ascboston.org. For our guests here in the sanctuary, there are printed copies back at the Great Doors. Also on the homepage, you'll find a link to Sermon Bingo. Feel free to play along while Reverend Kim preaches. As we begin our greetings, I invite the Zoomers and those here in the sanctuary with a device handy to please say hello in the chat and tell us where you're zooming in from today. And now Rich Abreu is going to turn the camera on our incarnated congregation as we wave and smile at each other as well as to our friends in the Zoom room, and you all in the Zoom room can wave and smile back. Hello, friends. Let's all engage that Arlington Street spirit of welcome that transcends physical distance as we greet one another heart to heart. Today, as we mark the second Sunday in Advent, we light a candle for joy. Like the Sundays of Advent and other festivals or holy days, the day of the year that my holiday spirit finally kicks in is a movable feast. It usually happens sometime around Thanksgiving, but some years it comes as early as mid-November, and other years the feeling doesn't find me until mid-December, which, as the Cooleybeck House Santa Claus, can be problematic. 2022 was shaping up to be one of those years. Since autumn began in late September, I've spent no less than 45 days in Nova Scotia. And before y'all get too excited, let me mention that my time there consisted of 3 separate business trips to assess the physical condition of, well, on this assignment, 54 different senior care centers throughout the province, nursing homes. Nobody warned me that keeping one's spirits up while visiting these facilities was going to be a fair portion of my work. Our first trip was during the height of fall color in late September and was generally within an hour of Halifax. My coworker Frank and I generally had no problem finding any type of dining experience that our hearts desired and our expense accounts would tolerate. For our second trip in October, we headed to the southwest, and some ominous signs of the approaching winter started to show up on our way to Yarmouth. We encountered several seafood shacks and other restaurants that had already closed for the season. However, Frank and I managed to locate enough restaurants offering Acadian cuisine, Think lobster cream sauce on everything, including lobster sandwiches, to keep our spirits up. The third trip, just after Thanksgiving, was in a word bleak. We had moved on from Acadia and found ourselves hoteled for the week on a suburban Canadian highway, featuring all the high points of Canadian mass market cuisine: Tim Hortons, A&W, Subway, Tim Hortons, McDonald's, Tim Hortons. The shorter days also had us leaving the hotel before dawn and returning after sunset, and we were mentally and physically wiped out by the end of the week. We headed out for dinner on Thursday and despaired at what the latest assault on our digestive tracts might be. Miraculously, our spirits were transformed by something completely normal, but heretofore lost to our Grinch-like souls. There it was, next to yet another Tim Hortons, a modest-sized lot lit with those real old-timey, enormous incandescent colored lights, not these little LED ones you see today, and a hand-lettered sign that simply read Christmas trees. It was a moment straight out of a Charlie Brown Christmas. And for a moment, Frank and I were possessed with the wonder of Charlie Brown and Linus as we parked the car and got out to regard the situation. We briefly discussed how ridiculous it would be for the cleaning staff at the hotel to encounter a fully trimmed Christmas tree in one or both of our rooms after we checked out, and decided better and moved on, full of as much holiday joy as grown-out adults are permitted, because really, the most untrammeled joy of the holiday season is reserved for the smallest of children. 20th century poet E.E. Cummings writes in the voice of a small child in his poem, Little Tree. I hope it will bring you joy. Little tree, little silent Christmas tree, you are so little, you are more like a flower. Who found you in the green forest, and were you very sorry to come away? See, I will comfort you because you smell so sweetly. I will kiss your cool bark and hug you safe and tight just as your mother would, only don't be afraid. The spangles that sleep all the year in a dark box, dreaming of being taken out and allowed to shine, the balls, the chains, red and gold, the fluffy threads. Put up your little arms and I'll give them all to you to hold. Every finger shall have its ring, and there won't be a single place dark or unhappy. Then when you're quite dressed, you'll stand in the window for everyone to see, and how they'll stare. Oh, but you'll be very proud. And my little sister and I will take hands, and looking up at our beautiful tree, we'll dance and sing, Noel, Noel. Our opening hymn is hymn 226, People Look East, which will be led by Hannah Shanefield. The words can be found in the order of service and in the chat. Please rise in body, rise in spirit, rise virtually or actually, then let's sing together.
Look east, the time is
It is now time for our treasured ritual of sharing community candles of sorrow and joy. These candles were submitted on our website by the Friday evening deadline. If you didn't submit your candle and have a joy or sorrow to share this morning, please wait until our third candle is lit, the silent candle, and then type in your joy or sorrow in the chat. Zoomers are invited to light silent candles at home. Those in the sanctuary are invited to light a silent candle at the table up front to the right of the Gleason podium. In addition to sharing our sorrows and joys this morning, let's reach out to one another in the week ahead, staying connected. May these times remind us of how very precious this beloved community is. We need one another. Whether together or apart, may we stay very close. And now, in the spirit of invocation, let's join in singing Sanctuary. The words are printed in your order of service and in the chat.
Some of us come today with heavy hearts. We open our hearts to you.
We have one candle of sorrow from Daryl Waters. My youngest brother David passed away late Thursday afternoon after a lengthy hospital stay. He was married to his childhood sweetheart, Janice, for 38 years. David made his career in financial services, was an avid gardener, and a bit of a foodie. He loved watching cooking shows on TV and attending food festivals of all sorts. A proud pet parent of 2 impish cats, he also enjoyed dressing up for special occasions and wearing stylish hats. A true family man, he was also greatly beloved of our large extended family and will be genuinely missed by all. David Waters, Presente.
Presente. And some of us come today in joy. We share your joy.
A candle of joy from Laura Pattison for Brittany Griner's release from a Russian penal colony at last. Our final candle is a candle for the passage and signing of the Respect for Marriage Act, which repealed the Defense of Marriage Act. The new law requires all states to recognize same-sex and interracial marriages performed in other states and federally recognizes these marriages. While this law should not be necessary in a time of increased hostility to minorities as well as the LGBTQ community, it is good to celebrate this step forward.
Thanksgiving.
all the sorrows and all the joys we hold in our hearts, we light a silent candle to remember and to rejoice. May the peace of this sanctuary enter into our hearts as we share a quiet moment together, breathing our prayers for ourselves, for one another, for our country, and for the world. Amen.
Let's join now in saying together the affirmation and covenant of our beloved spiritual community. The words are printed in your order of service and in the chat. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is our gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to speak our truths in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de nuestra congregación, y el servicio es nuestro regalo. Esto es a lo que nos comprometemos, convivir en paz, hablar nuestras verdades con amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. Our next hymn is hymn 25, O Come, Emmanuel, which will be led by Hannah Shanefield and Beck Zare. The words can be found in the order of service and in the chat. Please rise in body, rise in spirit. Let's all sing together.
Hailing from the Caribbean island, St. Lucia, West Indian poet Derek Walcott wrote an elegy to his mother known as Teacher Alex, evoking sardines with pepper sauce, crescent melons, the blue hills in late afternoon. In the bells of tree frogs with their steady clamor, in the indigo dark before dawn, the fading morse of fireflies and crickets, then light on the beetle's armor. Your melody faltered, he says, but never your faith in the bounty which is his word. My business and duty, he concludes, the lesson you taught your sons is to write of the light's bounty on familiar things. I first learned this lesson in the AIDS years, when suddenly we had so little time to get it right. And I have had to relearn it over and over. A good life is not lived from fireworks to fireworks. It is lived, said Swiss-American psychiatrist Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, by paying attention to the ordinary and by stringing the small, precious moments like pearls on a strand of silk. Warrior and peacemaker Chief Crowfoot, who led the Siksika First Nation, asked, "What is life? Is it the flash of a firefly in the night? Yes. Yes, it is the breath of a buffalo in wintertime. It is the little shadow that runs across the grass and loses itself in the sunset. We can make our own list. Name the pearls." A beautiful piece of music. Or the sound of a freshly stamped birthday card when it drops into the mailbox. Your breath catching as the cold air fills your lungs and reddens your cheeks, the smell of mulled cider, sunrise in spite of everything. Attend to the light's bounty on familiar things. In her book, High Tide at Tucson, American novelist Barbara Kingsolver writes, "In my life, I've had frightening losses and unfathomable gifts. A car that spontaneously caught fire while I was driving it, sunrise in the rainforest, the end of a marriage followed by a year in which I could barely understand how to keep living. A stupendous column of blue butterflies rising from a Greek monastery. Every one of us is called upon," she writes, "probably many times, to start a new life. At first, it's impossible to think how this will be possible. Eventually, what moves it all forward is the subterranean ebb and flow of being alive among the living." In my own worst season, she concludes, I've come back from the colorless world of despair by forcing myself to look hard for a long time at a single thing. A flame of red geranium in my bedroom window. My daughter in a yellow dress. The perfect outline of a full, dark sphere behind the crescent moon. Until I learn to be in love with life again. I have taught myself joy over and over. Persian Sufi mystic Rumi asks, when you go to a garden, do you look at the thorns or the flowers? Spend more time, he advises, with roses and jasmine. Attend to the light's bounty on familiar things. Years ago, when my friend Maria's youngest sister was all but immobilized in the grip of a deep depression, Maria brought her to come live with her. I watched her midwife her sister back to health, bringing her out into the garden to tend to small sections at a time, edging and weeding just this rose bush, just this row of carrots. During frequent rest breaks, Maria served iced tea with fresh lemon and mint, small, thin slices of fruit, half a rice cake with a little almond butter. Not too much so as to overwhelm, but just enough to tempt her sister back to health. And then they would wash and dry those few dishes and put them away together. Slowly but surely, once again, her sister's world was re-enchanted by the healing power of the light's bounty on familiar things. Ross Gay is a professor of English at Indiana and Drew universities, author of 4 books of poetry, and founding board member of the Bloomington Community Orchard, which he describes as a nonprofit, free fruit for all, justice and joy project. 2 of his poems are featured in the anthology African American Poetry, 250 Years of Struggle and Song. In his The Book of Delights, Ross Gay writes, "It astonishes me sometimes, no often, how every person I get to know, everyone, regardless of everything, and I mean everything, lives with some profound personal sorrow. But sometimes," he says, "sometimes something wonderful breaks through our feelings of sorrow and loss. If only for a moment, we feel a sense of delight, even joy." Ross Gay created a way to remember delight and to build what he calls his delight muscle. Every day, he creates a short piece on one delight, drafting them quickly, writing by hand. This, he says, is a discipline for me, a spiritual practice. Spend time thinking and writing about delight every day. And what did he learn? The more you study delight, he writes, the more delight there is to study. Which is to say, I feel my life to be more full of delight, not without fear or pain or loss or sorrow, but more full of delight. I also learned this year that my delight grows, much like love and joy, when I share it. Here's one of those sketches. This might be my favorite. It's titled, "Tomato on Board." What you don't know until you carry a tomato seedling through the airport and onto a plane is that it will make people smile at you almost like you're carrying a baby, a quiet baby. I didn't know this until today, carrying my little tomato about 3 inches high in its 4-inch plastic starter pot, which my friend Michael gave to me, smirking about how I was going to get it home. I slid the thing into my bag while going through security, which made them pull my bag for inspection. When the security guy saw it was a tomato, he smiled and said, "I don't know how to check that. Have a good day." But I quickly realized that one of its stems, I almost said arms, was broken from the jostling, and it only had 4 of them, so I decided I'd better just carry it out in the open. And the shower of love began. Before boarding my flight, one of the workers said, "Nice tomato," which I didn't think was a pickup line. And the flight attendant asked about the tomato more than once, every time calling it, "My tomato. Where's my tomato? How's my tomato?" She even directed me to an open seat in the exit row. "Why don't you guys go sit there and stretch out?" I gathered my things and I set the little guy in the window so she could look out. When I got water, I poured some into the little guy's soil. When it got bumpy, I put my hand on the little guy's container, careful not to snap off another arm. And when we landed and the pilot put the brakes on hard, my arm reflexively went out across the seat, holding the little guy in place, the way my dad's arm would when he had to brake like that in the car, that car without seatbelts, in one of my very favorite gestures in the Encyclopedia of Human Gestures. The light's bounty on familiar things. Many years ago, when our youngest daughters were very small, I wanted to recreate a beloved Christmas tradition from them that my grandfather had given to me. As they watched Sesame Street, I crept around the house and put electric candles in each of the windows. When I had finished, I picked them up, one in each arm, close your eyes for surprise, no peeking, and carried them out into the moonless, frosty night. I faced the house. Count with me now. 1, 2, 3, now open. "Oh, Mommy," said Jamie, "it's so beautiful." And Jessie, the baby, laughed with delight. Late that night, long after I'd tucked them in, I sat in a rocking chair illuminated only by electric candlelight. I thought of the years, so many Christmas times, when my grandfather had led me out of the house. Close your eyes for a surprise, no peeking, and counted to 3. Now open. It was always a surprise, all over again. It never got old. And now I had taken up that strand of pearls once again and added one more. My children never met him, but they knew him. They know him in the light's bounty on familiar things. Beloved spiritual companions, may we spend time every day thinking about delight, stringing small, precious moments like pearls on a strand of silk. Let us teach ourselves joy over and over, and may the shower of love begin. So may we re-enchant the world with the healing power of the light's bounty on familiar things. Close your eyes for a surprise. Now open. Amen.
Thank you, Mark David. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, choir. And thank you, Hyunju. Arlington Street Church is entirely self-sustaining. It's up to us, and our generosity continues to be astounding. Thank you for your commitment to our staff, our building, and to our beloved spiritual community. Each Sunday, we share our collection plate with a partner in our mission of love, service, justice, and peace. This month, our beneficiary will be Everytown, the largest gun violence prevention organization in the United States. Everytown lobbies for gun control legislation on state and federal levels and also provides support services to survivors of gun violence. Thank you for your generosity. Morgan and I were channel surfing recently and came across the last few minutes of The Wizard of Oz when Dorothy is finally safe at home and says, "There's no place like home." After being far from home for any period of time, it's always good to be back. I had mentioned this to Kim first thing when I saw her this morning, and she said, "That's the way I feel when I walk in here." And I feel the same way. I'm not in some tired motel room watching the service on dodgy Wi-Fi that freezes up more often than not, or even get bumped out of Zoom once. I'm back here home with my spiritual community. Please take a moment now to join me in giving to our beloved spiritual community and filling our virtual collection plate. You can give online by scanning the QR code in the order of service or by going to ascboston.org. You can mail a check to the church or use the envelopes in the pews, which can be handed to Reverend Kim, Reverend Beth, or to any of our ushers after the service. You can also text your gift to the church by sending a message with the word GIVE, G-I-V-E, to 617-300-0509. Thank you for your generosity.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them blue for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed days, the dark sacred nights. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky. So are the faces of people walking by. I see friends shaking hands saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh, yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh, yeah.
Thank you again to Joe Della Pena. I'm recalling years ago downstairs after service, and Joe's tinkering away on the piano and just uncorks a Thelonious Monk selection out of nowhere. And I'm like thinking, not that I needed any other sign to know that this was the right place for me, but that was another one on top of the pile. As always, there are weekly gatherings in our ASC Zoom room for loving kindness meditation, poetry, yoga, and writing. This afternoon at 2 o'clock, several of us will be gathering on Zoom with the Irish poet Padraig Ó Tuama. And at 5 o'clock p.m., our own Jenny Heffler leads vegan cooking with Jenny. Tonight's recipe is coconut curry. And every Wednesday at 4 p.m., Reverend Kim and Reverend Beth host a tea party with a conversation prompt. This week's prompt is, if you could live through one day in history, what day would it be? A Wednesday at 5 o'clock, those in the Boston area are invited to meet in front of the church to leave for an open Messiah sing at the Cathedral Church of St. Paul. And on Thursday at 7:30, Reverend Kim and Reverend Beth are hosting a Zoom gathering for new friends of Arlington Street. Come introduce yourself to our ministers and we'll all talk. Information and Zoom room links are at ascboston.org. To attend any of these events, you don't have to be a member. You don't have to turn on your video or talk if you don't want to, and they're all free. All are always welcome. The change here, Andrew Stack is out sick today, so our postlude will be played by Julia and Mark David. It's Rodney Miller's Sparkle of Starlight. Thanks for stepping up. Following the service, everyone is welcome to join the virtual coffee hours. If you'd like to participate, please answer yes to the breakout room invitation that will appear on your screen. If you're here in the sanctuary, you'll need to go to the Zoom room before the postlude begins. Thanks to all of you who joined in today's service and to all those who made it possible. Remember, we're all in this together.
Thank you, Patrick. Choir, you can come on up. Well, our final hymn today is Simple Faith by Mustard's Retreat. I was thinking about it, and it brought me back to maybe not the very first time I heard it, but I think the second time I heard the song was when I led it at Ferry Beach in Maine at this beautiful outside chapel, and certainly conjures delight in my mind. I'm going to teach you this one in case you don't know it. I'll sing a line, invite you to sing it back to me. The words are in your order of service. So it goes like this, or in the chat. It goes like this. Ours is a simple faith. Life is a short embrace. Try that. Ours is a simple faith. Life is a short embrace. Heaven is in this place every day. Heaven is in this place every day. Hope is the ground we till. Make each day what you will. Hope is the ground we till. Make each day what you will. Thankful for dreams fulfilled every day. Thankful for dreams fulfilled every day. I invite you to rise in body, rise in spirit. This is a fun song to add some of your own harmonies, move around, add some physical percussion, whatever feels right for you. The melody to the verses is just about the same as the melody for the choruses, so feel free to join in on those as well. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Ours is a simple faith. Life is a short embrace. Heaven is in this place every day. Hope is the ground we till. Make each day what you will. Thankful for dreams fulfilled every day. No room in this heart for fear. No judgments they drawing near. Trust that inner voice you hear every day. Life's not a goal or race. It's all about heart and faith and living a life of grace every day. Ours is a simple faith. Life is a short embrace. Heaven is in this place every day. Hope is the ground we till. Make each day what you will. Thankful for dreams fulfilled every day. Julie Metcalf on the violin. Trust is an open hand, making an honest stand, rooted here in the land every day. Live in the mystery, seeking the harmony here between you and me every day. Ours is a simple faith. Life is a short embrace. Heaven is in this place every day. Hope is the ground we till. Make each day what you will. Thankful for dreams fulfilled every day. Ours is simple. Ours is a simple faith. Life is a short embrace. Heaven is in this place every day. Hope is the ground we till. Make each day what you will. Thankful for dreams fulfilled every day. Every day, every day, every day, every day.
Bravo.
Amen.
Before our benediction, I invite those of you in the Zoom room to please reach out your hands and touch the sides of your square. And those of you in the sanctuary, to please raise your hands, palms out. Let's send loving kindness to the people to your left and to your right. Send loving kindness to the person on either side of you, to To the people on either side of them, send out love into this beloved spiritual community and feel it coming back to you. Love is the spirit of this congregation. And now for our benediction, I invite you to put your hands over your heart in namaste. I bow to the divine in you. These are the words of W.E.B. Du Bois, co-founder of the NAACP and the first African American to earn a doctorate from Harvard. He says, the prayer of our souls is a petition for persistence, not for the one good deed or single thought, but deed upon deed and thought upon thought, until day calling unto day shall make a life worth living. Let us keep this faith, beloveds, and pass it on. The service begins when the service ends. Bless your hearts. I love you. Amen.
Your people
please visit ascboston.org for more information about this historic Unitarian Universalist congregation. Arlington Street Church, gathered in love and service for justice and peace.